a great option to add. We don't do any new builds anymore without this. This is a standard part. It's too nice of an option to have. Hey guys, Tim McCamus back out in the shop tonight. We've got a product that we've been working on for quite a long time. It's not a new product for the industry, but it's a new product for us. Sometimes when some of these new designs come out, they push them out really quick. They're not quite have all the bugs worked out. So sometimes we like to take a little step back and look at what's going on before we jump in and try to create something new. But this item I have in front of me, this is our Adjustable Strut Cup Kit. This is on the top side of the strut. It's going to give you the ability to adjust the ride height up and down at the front of the chassis without using your spring. So you can, you have some spring adjustment in the strut you could use for some slight ride height adjustments, but to get the most use out of your strut travel and your geometry, you want to move the top of it rather than use as a spring, because if you do that, you're going to push the shaft up too high and you're going to lose a lot of that travel that you're paying for. So this kit allows you to make those changes on the fly with simple adjustments. So if you want to raise the front of the car 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch or drop it 1/2 inch, easy to do with this kit. If you're familiar with this, this is a kind of a two-part system. You've got the inner body, which is aluminum. We're going to make this out of 70-75, so it's a nice tough aluminum part. Then you've got your outer sleeve that's going to be threaded internally, and this is what's going to weld onto the chassis. So you can do this as an upgrade, or you can do it during new construction. A lot of things we did with this, because there's a lot of stuff. There's short travel struts, long travel struts, medium travel struts. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So what we wanted to do was integrate a component that would cover all the bases without having to change later. Okay, so what we wanted to do was get an adequate amount of degree change in the top of this, because if you are using a long travel strut, which is kind of the current trend, during the downward stroke, like so when the chassis is leaving the starting line and the struts are extending, if they're long travel, they're going to go through a lot more degree change here at the top than, let's say, if it was a standard, like maybe an older short travel version. So to do that, we had to do a lot of design in this portion to get that bearing to travel and to get that degree change. So we have a nice large diameter on this. It's 2.5 OD, and that gives us the ability to increase the size of our internal aluminum part, which in turn then gives us the clearance we need. We worked really hard on the inside at the bottom here where the bearing is. So there's a lot of machining that's done down inside this with these components here. This component is going to go on the bottom here, and then you can see how these are machined, and this one's going to go on the top. And with the machining we did inside here, that gave us, that's what we needed to do to get the most travel. So for these long travels, we had to get some room in there for this to pivot around. And these are designed like a safety washer, so they're bigger than the ID of the hole. So if there was ever an issue inside, that they won't pull through. But to do that, then you start really getting into some internal clearances. So the machining inside this, the diameter, and these offset washers really gave us that extra needed clearance we were required for like a long travel setup. But we do have the most degree change here available in any of these. So, and we worked on it a long time. We made a lot of revisions. We tend to make something and then revise it and keep revising it, because we wanted to not only make a nice unit that would weld on to the chassis, but the accessories that go with it were very important too, because putting this together is, there's some specific tools that you need that it seems like what's available now is that it was like an afterthought for the guys to go, okay, now I got this, but I can't really get down in there to put it together, so I got to make some janky welded up piece of crap tool to assemble this thing. So along with all of this stuff, we made a nice tool kit that I'm going to go over in just a second. So what you see here is all of the components blown apart, assembled, and then some tooling and some optional stuff that we have to put this together. There's going to be some misalignment washers that are needed this is going to replace on the top of the strut where the Torrington bearing is, and then this one is going to go inside on top of the bearing in this unit here. Now these are made out of stainless, and these are a nice hard quality stainless. Some of the stuff that's available now is aluminum, which is just not tough enough for this type of component. So we decided to go with stainless on that. 70-75 on these components, 41-30 on these. Welds up really nice. The thread engagement is good. We have some nice finished parts, so when this is all done, we 3D print a cap that's going to seal this off. So once this is all put together, then this component here will fit in and finish off the top of this. There are some really nice strut kits that have air adjustable extension. They have a small air line that runs out of the top of that. So you can still use that with this component here. It's just right here where this notch is. You're going to relieve this little cap with just drill it and then make a little slot there so it'll pop down on top of this. But then you'll be able to run that airline right out of this hole here, right out the top. We've got a really nice bearing in here that's already pre-fit to the shaft for the strut. This component, this little kit here is the tool kit that's going to come with this. So you've got several components, because once this is together, this will need to be adjusted. Once you need to make that adjustment, you can use the spanner in this kit. So this is all little brackets going to come with this. So you've got a spanner wrench, and then you have this. So this is going to fit a 3/8 drive. Then that's going to fit into the top of this, which will allow you to turn this up and down to change your height. So you're going to release this locking nut with this spanner tool here. So this spanner tool is going to lock into here. Pop this locking ring loose from the bottom, and then you're going to take a 3/8 drive, 3-inch extension, 3/8 drive ratchet, and then you can adjust this up and down while it's on the chassis. You want to do this with as much load off of the strut as you can. So preferably don't do this when it's setting down on the ground. You know, go ahead and get it up in the air and get some of the spring tension off of the bottom of that cup, and then adjust this, and then just measure from here to the bottom for what the change you want to make. Now, we do have a full 2 inches of travel here that you can gain from this and still have plenty of thread engagement. There's some components that are available out there now that claim they have 2 inches, but their bodies are just not long enough for that, so I don't know how they're actually getting that number, but this will give you a full 2 inches of range adjustment. So you're going to start it out in kind of more of a neutral position and give yourself some ability to move the chassis down or up in the front. So nice tool kit. Like I said, this spanner is going to unlock this ring. This component here really going to be used mostly just one time during initial setup. Once you put this together, you can see that that strut shaft and that locking nut that goes on the top of that shaft is going to be way down inside here. And then you also have to hold the top of the shaft to keep it from turning while you tighten up that nut. So to do that, we came up with this tool, which is going to fit that nut, and then it's going to allow you to go down through the top here, and then this is going to fit on here. So then you'll be able to hold, you'll use a socket and an extension and a ratchet to hold the top of the strut shaft on that little hex, and then you're going to use this to tighten up that nut. So you'll have your regular 3/8 ratchet and extension and socket will go down in here and hold the top of the shaft still, and then you're going to turn this to tighten up that nut that's on the top. So this is something that's going to be used just when it's put together the first time, or if you have to do any disassembly. But this component's very valuable when you have to do that, because you have to get down through the inside of this to hold that, to be able to get that locking nut out of there. Very nice tool kit. This is all stainless. You just put it back in this rack, throw it in your toolbox when you're ready to use it. We do have some options for this kit. So when you put this together, obviously, this is going to be mocked up on the chassis. This outer sleeve is going to need to be welded to the tubes, the strut tubes that go down to the lower frame rail. We have very good instructions that come with this kit that details how this is to be done, because if you distort this or weld it too hot, you're going to damage the thread engagement. Like it's not going to travel nice and smooth like this. So we want to keep this round while we weld it on. And we do that by tacking it about every 1/4 inch around that tube, but also welding this in short increments and letting it cool naturally, okay? So we've also got a recommendation for some thread lubricant that goes on this while you're putting it together, while you're doing the welding process, and it's specific. We found a really lightweight penetrating oil that performs very, very good during the welding process, so that when this comes back apart, you have nice, smooth thread engagement and you're not damaging this aluminum part. Now, this is what you get in the kit. You're going to get this complete kit here, but this center part, like I say, is 7075. It's anodized black. It's very hard to weld this and not get heat transfer onto this part here. Now, it will not damage it if you follow our instructions, but it might discolor it. So we didn't like that. So we made a separate part, which is just a weld fixture. Okay, this is a simple duplication of this part here. This component here, when you're using it for the weld fixture to prevent any damage to your end part, this is a nice part because when we machined it, we basically simulated the bearing inside there, because this bearing obviously is just like a rod end, so it moves in here, so it pivots. So when you're setting this up on the strut and you don't have a solid fixture for it, it's a little bit harder process to make sure that this is exactly in line with the shaft of the strut. So with this weld fixture component, it eliminates that process because we basically simulated the bearing in here and just left this solid. So when you put this onto the top of the strut, just like this, and you mock this up, bolt it down, now this is solid in line with that shaft. So everything is nice and straight in line, so you don't have to worry about this cup being off a half a degree or a quarter of a degree, maybe not being perfect with the strut shaft. The weld fixture fixes that. So, and you only need one of these. You'll swap this from side to side. You don't need to buy a pair of them. But when you bolt this together now, you have basically just extended that strut shaft on up through here nice and solid, so that when you weld this cup on, you know it's exactly in line with that strut shaft. And you're still going to follow those same rules like that we have for welding this. This is the same instructions, but if it discolors this or anything, that it's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. So this is just a weld fixture. So during the installation process, this is a nice part. This is an option you can buy separate. Now you can definitely do it with this. We've done it for years, but you have to be very, very careful. The end part that I'm going to use, I like to keep it from having any discoloration in the threads. So we recommend this, but it's strictly an option. You can do it with this with no problem. You just have to be very, very careful. And you will still get a little discoloration. It's almost impossible to weld this and get good penetration and not add a little discoloration to these threads. So super nice kit. Check it out online. There's a lot of information on this on our website, how it's used and how it's going to fit. There's some pictures on how it goes on the chassis. Nice large diameter here. This is 2.5. This is going to give you a nice area to weld to, and there are a couple options for putting these onto. You can fit this into the side of the strut tube, or you can actually run the strut tube into this on one side and out of it on the other side. Just your preference. Just have to make sure that you check proper tire clearance for turning. So you want to make sure that when you mount this, that you don't get your tube so far over the tire that you lose some of your turning radius on the car. Very nice kit. Our guys have been working on it for a long time. It came out really good. We've made a lot of revisions to it. We made a lot of mock-ups, a lot of prototypes. Really, really nice kit. It's available now. We have them in stock. If you have any questions, you can call our guys. They'll be glad to walk you through any help you might need. But check it out, and if it's something that you want to do on your existing car, or if you want to, if you're doing a new build, this is a great option to add. We don't do any new builds anymore without this. This is a standard part. It's too nice of an option to have down the road to be able to adjust that front ride height with this and not screw up your travel and your struts. So check it out, let us know what you need, and we will be glad to help you out. Thanks for watching.